Hello, my love, and welcome back to the Energy Expansion Podcast. As always, I'm so incredibly grateful to have you here. And we're going to dive into something really fun and really powerful. Today's episode was inspired by a trend that I've been seeing going around social media. I don't know how long this trend is going to last, but I love it because it really got me thinking about what I believe in and the thoughts and the way of living and the ways of thinking that I really feel like have shaped my life, either my entire life or over the last decade plus of being a business owner. And this trend that I'm referring to is the propaganda trend. So some people are taking two different approaches. It's like the propaganda that I'm not falling for, things that society or culture is trying to get you to believe. And you're like, I'm a hard no to that. The flip side of it is the propaganda that you are falling for. The things that maybe other people might look at you and think that you're a little crazy, or they might not fully understand it, but you're like, this is me and this is what I want. And this has made a difference for me. And so today we're going to go with the propaganda that I'm falling for, beliefs that I really, truly stand by. And I'm really excited about this because I think I saw this pop up just a week ago. And if you know anything about me, I love social media, but I don't do a whole lot with the trends. I don't feel any sort of way about it. I'm just really busy and I'm a mom of three and I'm going to share what I want to share. And a lot of times, like most trends don't actually genuinely inspire me. If they inspire you, I love that for you. That's just not the case for me, but this one was a little bit different. So as I am sharing these, there's a 10-ish, give or take. We might do a little less. We might do a little bit more. I might think of other ones. But as you're listening today, I want to invite you to consider your own thoughts and beliefs. Like, what are you a stand for? What are you a hard no to, even though people around you, friends, families, coworkers, besties, other entrepreneurs, if you're like me and you're an entrepreneur, might be believing in or spouting off or ways that they might be living. So these are in no particular order. I literally just had my notes app every time I have a thought and I'm like, I firmly believe in that thing, or I'm actually really strongly against that thing. I have been pulling out my phone the last couple of days. And so I'm literally just going to share these with you in the order that they came through. And so the first one is, you're only ever one decision away from a completely different life. You're only ever one decision away from a completely different life. I feel like I have proof of this. I have evidence of this in my own life, personal life, business, decisions really big, decisions really small. And I also feel like I've been in a season where this has been a mantra for me. And I've alluded to this in the podcast. Things right now in life, in Dani's world, they're good. They're good. And simultaneously, there is something inside of me gnawing away at me, trying to get my attention. And I don't know exactly what that is in this moment. And I had a conversation with my husband last night. One of my incredible clients sent me a beautiful deck. It's called the Sacred Rebels Oracle, and it arrived in the mail yesterday. And it was such a sweet surprise. And so I opened up the deck, and my husband, we were standing in the kitchen together, and I handed him the deck and I said, I want you to pull the first card. And the card that you pull is going to be a message for our entire family. No pressure or anything. And he's not really like into this stuff, but he'll play along with me. So we cleared the deck and he shuffled it in the way that he does, which is very different than how I do it. But it was okay. It was right. It's his way. And he pulls over a card and just, I don't remember word for word what it was, but the essence of the message, we both had full body chills. And it talked about kind of being in a place where you feel like a change needs to be made. And you might have been in this place for a while. And I feel like we have been as a family. We've been in this place for a little while. And my husband and I are in such a great place, but neither of us know, like, do you need to make a move? Do I need to make a move? What are we doing? Like, what's this change we need to make? And so this mantra of you're only ever one decision away from a completely different life has been really powerful. And it's really something that I've been sitting with, especially in this season of feeling like God is asking us to do something. And I also really truly believe like that there's seasons for waiting. Have you ever had one of those seasons where like, this is not the season to completely jump off the cliff? We've been in this gestational period of being prepared for whatever's next. And I really feel like there is power in being uncomfortable and learning to sit in the discomfort. And I think that God, universe, spirit, whatever you believe in, uses that discomfort for good. So we kind of went off on this other tangent, but I keep bringing myself back to, okay, Dani, if you don't like this, if you don't want this, make a different decision, because you're only ever one decision away from a completely different life. And so I wanted to share this with you because I'm curious what decisions you've been feeling called to make. Is there something that you feel like God, your higher self, your intuition is trying to get your attention around, trying to get you to look at? And this could be really big decisions, like starting a business is a big decision. Literally moving across the state, moving across your town. We did that once and that was a big choice. We stayed in the same town, but we moved from one house to another house. It might be that, but it could also be something seemingly small, like doing the thing before you feel like you're ready. It could be using your voice in situations where maybe in the past you didn't. There's something, I didn't put it on here, and we'll add it in. Propaganda I'm falling for attached to this is something known as exposure therapy. I feel like there are few things more powerful than realizing what you're afraid of, and that thing you're afraid of is required to get you to where you want to go. So the way you get over it is you just do it. You do it. You expose yourself to the things that freak you out a little bit. And in the exposure, in the doing the thing you're afraid of, what you realize is like, okay, I didn't die. That wasn't so bad. Maybe I actually can do this. And sometimes that's required when it comes to making new choices and making new decisions. So what's one decision that you've been dancing around, that you've been feeling called to look at or make that could shift everything for you? I want to avoid numbering these because I just wove in this other one about exposure therapy. This next one was supposed to be number 2, and it is Jesus and all things woo-woo can absolutely coexist. I feel like for years, so many people have come to me in secret, whispering in my DMs about, can I read my Bible and also be madly in love with my oracle cards? Yes, you can. You absolutely can. I really feel like all of the beautiful tools that we have access to, especially the lens, and other people might have different beliefs on this, and I respect that, and other people might use them differently. But all of the tools that I have around me, you guys have heard me say this before, on my desk right now, I have a little picture of Jesus that I picked up from a Greek Orthodox church last summer. And right in front of that is a crystal tower. And over here, I have my rosary. And right next to my rosary is my magic wand. To me, they all go together. I feel like they are all tools that help me feel clearer about what is actually true and right for me. They have me feel inspired. They help me gain clarity. And to me, everything comes back to the relationship that I have with myself, my own inner wisdom, my own voice, and my relationship to God. And that all just feels so good and so true for me. I get that some people have a really hard time wrapping their mind around that. And again, no judgment on my end. If that doesn't feel good or right for you, I can totally honor and respect that. This is something that I have been unwavering about for years. And I think that, 5, 6, 10 years ago, I might have been too afraid to say that out loud, but it's something that I have said to people that I love and trust and inside of my programs for many years. And again, when people come to me, usually on social media, and it's always private, wanting to have conversations about this, wanting in their own minds and hearts to reconcile how this all fits together, I'm realizing more and more that me staying quiet about my conviction around this serves nobody. Serves nobody. And so the question that I have for you, I'm sharing each of these things that I deeply believe in. I guess that's really what this ends up being, is just beliefs. What are you a stand for? What are you convicted about? I'm going to bring it back to a way that you can apply this to your own life or things that you can consider. So I'm really curious, is there a part of yourself, your identity, and or your spiritual beliefs that you've been hiding or denying? Because for me, like I just said, I wouldn't have said this out loud on a podcast that is reaching a lot of ears and a lot of hearts. I wouldn't have done this a few years ago. And maybe that's why I waited just until recently to launch this thing, because I'm in a season of life where it's not worth staying quiet anymore. And this feels like a really great way to connect with you, to share my truth, and also to hear from you. Right before I hit record, and I had all of my notes, I have a template that I use for all these podcast episodes. There was one that I just wove in, and I think I wanted to weave it in under the Jesus and the woo-woo because it's definitely spiritual. But fam, propaganda I'm falling for is the concept of soul contracts. Soul contracts. Soul contracts are basically this idea that before you incarnated, I'm not going to make it about you. I don't want to if you don't believe in that, that's okay. Before I incarnated in this lifetime, before my soul merged with this physical body, I always crack up when people call it a meat suit, because that's really what it is. It's this temporary meat suit. And our eternal soul just chose this physical body for a little while, for a few decades is really what's happening here. Hopefully more than a few decades, like 10 decades. I want to get to 100 years old. But it's this idea that before we came here, I made an agreement with my mom that she was going to be my mom in this lifetime. And I made an agreement with my dad. That's hard to say out loud. In one of the last podcast episodes, I shared that I don't have a great relationship with my dad, but I want to believe that before I got here, we made agreements. And the agreements were something along the lines of I'm going to break your heart. And I'm really sorry, but you're not going to have a strong male figure in your life to learn from. And you're going to know what it feels like to be unwanted and to feel not enough and to feel disposable. I would never want any of my babies. I have 2 little girls and a little boy. I would never want them to feel that way. But this idea of soul contracts is really empowering because I can stand strong and tall and say I would not be who I am today without the lessons and the experiences that I've had. And I don't love this for us, but I really think that it's the things that have hurt us and broke our heart and the challenges and the adversity that we've faced that typically have the biggest and can have the most powerful and positive impact on our lives. We're going to talk about some other things, I believe, a little bit later. And I feel like as a little girl, I deserved a different type of dynamic with a father. And I got what I got. And this concept of soul contracts has me believe undoubtedly that I chose that. I said, okay, this is the lifetime where I'm going to learn these things and I'm going to learn them from this person. I share this concept with my children, which is really cool and really interesting. So we, underneath our roof, we definitely have what I would call more of a Christian viewpoint. My children go to a Christian school and they know more verses than I've ever known. And I really love that for them. But then we also talk about things like reincarnation and we have conversations about soul contracts. I'm I don't know what will happen if you tell your teacher. So maybe don't raise your hand and shout this in front of the class. And so my children believe that they chose me and my husband, and they believe that they chose each other, and they believe that they chose the order that they came. We jokingly talk about how my oldest, she had to be the oldest in this lifetime. And we joke that my son River could not have been an only child in any way, shape, or form. And so I think it's just such a really beautiful and empowering way to look at life from the biggest possible bird's eye view lens and just see and appreciate the perfection in all of it, even if there was a lot of pain and a lot of heartache and a lot of stuff that you wouldn't want to wish upon anyone else. I think there's a way that we can take loving ownership for it and see the beauty in all of it. The next one is being is greater than doing, like being greater than sign doing. And there's a quote by Deepak Chopra: "We are called human beings, not human doings." And that always makes me laugh. The first time I heard that, I was like, oh, that's a really great reminder. And doing is important. Showing up and taking action is important. But being mindful of who you're being while you're in the doing holds so much freaking power. Being mindful of the energy that you're moving from makes a world of a difference as to where you land, where you end up, the results and the outcomes that you create. I've been saying this more and more, and I don't think I got this for a really long time, up until just a couple of years ago. But what's interesting is you could have a to-do list, and no matter what happens, like, you're going to do these things. So you're not changing anything about the action, right? Like, here's the thing that you have to do and it has to get done. But the energy that you do it from is going to determine the result. So this is insane. I'm not saying, well, you could go do this thing and take that path there, or you could do this completely different thing and take this other path. Yes, that can be true. But one singular task, who you're being while you're doing it, can lead to two completely different outcomes. That's like kind of a mind bender. Just sit with that for a moment. Because I was the master at, let me see how quickly I can check all of the things off of my to-do list. I was just all about speed and efficiency and intentionality and heart and purpose, which are very important to me. I didn't even have the awareness that that was a thing a long time ago. And so just coming back to this energy of, before you do anything, checking in with the being. How are you showing up? How are you caring for yourself? What is the energy that you're moving from? And realizing that the task doesn't need to change, but perhaps who you're being, a shift in that could lead to an entirely new outcome. The next one is sort of attached to this. I will die on this hill. Your energy is your greatest asset. Your energy is your greatest asset. Your people can feel it. People can sense it. I believe that who you're being, again, bringing back the point we just talked about, and the energy that you're moving from creates. So being mindful of your energy is a game changer. I'll never forget. I had to look this up because I was in a workshop many years ago that was talking about how powerful the energy from our heart is, like our auric field. Our minds, don't get me wrong, our minds are really powerful, but this is from the Heart Math Institute. The heart's electric magnetic field, which, so like, all energy is emanating from our body, not from our mind. Our thoughts absolutely carry a vibration, but what people are feeling and sensing from us actually generates from our heart. That's what then creates our electric magnetic field, our energetic aura. Your heart's electromagnetic field is 5,000 times more powerful than the brain's, and your heart's electromagnetic field radiates 10 feet beyond your body. Taking impeccable care of your energy is one of the greatest things that you could ever do. Another one that was kind of on the tail end of this one statistic was that people decide if they can trust you in 7 seconds or less. You can't really say very much in 7 seconds. And I think that speaks volumes of the fact that the way that you're showing up and the energy that you be and that you share with the world is even more important than anything that you could ever say. I love that. I knew that this was really powerful, and I believe this in my bones, and this is like a core of the work that I do. But I remember that statistic, and I was like, I need to find that. I want to share that because I thought that that was absolutely mind-blowing. Another one is, through and through, magic is real. I believe in magic. I believe in synchronicities. I believe in divine timing. I don't think that there's anything that's a coincidence or an accident. And there's something so incredibly game-changing about living a life from the belief that magic is real. And the more that you believe in magic, the more life is going to meet you with that magic. And so I just want to invite you to consider, what's your flavor of magic? What are your favorite things to see and feel and experience? The next one is the belief that happiness is an inside job. When you're going through it, some of these things that I'm sharing with you, like the first one around a single decision being able to change your life and happiness being an inside job, there are moments when I'm like full-blown pity party for myself. And it's like, help, somebody come save me. But really, when it comes down to it, there's no one else coming. You're it, babe. And that also gets to be a really empowering thing if you let it be. The power is in your hands. Your ability to create what it is that you desire, to experience exactly what you want, to create change. There's moments, I don't know if you felt this, where I am sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I'm tired of my own BS, right? And we're just like in those cycles. Those are nice wake up moments of like, okay, well, no one but me created this, which means no one but me can get me out of this or create something totally different. And so happiness is an inside job, and that's good news. That's great news, because it's a reminder that you have the power to really create whatever it is that you desire. And me being someone who believes in God, believes in Creator, I love this even more because you're not on your own doing this whole thing called life. We're constantly co-creating with whatever it is that you believe in is your higher power. Again, I'm a big fan of statistics. I found this other statistic that only 10% of our happiness comes down to our external circumstances. That's not very much. 90% of what creates the level of happiness and joy and satisfaction and fulfillment that you experience begins in your mind, in your heart, in your body, in your energy field. Only 10% of what is happening externally contributes to your overall sense of happiness.
Oh.
I would have thought it was a little bit more than that, but I feel like all of this tracks. The last few ones that I have here, rest is productive. Rest is productive. I don't think that every part of me believes this. This is something that I feel like I have struggled with over the years, giving myself permission to rest and not having to earn it, and realizing that it's just as productive as getting the things done on my to-do list. Again, I'm still wrapping my own head and heart around this, but I really do believe this to be true. And I think that, I grew up surrounded by so many incredible, hardworking women. It wasn't just my dad, but there was like a pattern of there's not really many strong male figures in my generational line. For whatever reason, all of these women in my lineage came here and our souls were like, we're just going to do this thing together. And so I saw a lot of women work themselves night and day really hard and not rest and not know how to slow down or pause and take good care of themselves. And so that's something I've had to learn the hard way, but also something that I'm deeply committed to. First and foremost for myself, my own well-being and quality of life, but also me being a mom, not just to girls, but also to a son, and being really clear around the kinds of examples that I want to set. And so rest is important. Rest is productive. The last ones that I have here is that every single one of us has gifts that no one else has. And your purpose in this lifetime is to share those gifts. You, my love, have been given, divinely handed gifts, skills, talents, magic, experiences, points of view that no one else on this planet currently, no one else on this who has ever walked this planet before, who will ever walk this planet again, has. You've been given these gifts, and your purpose in this life is to share those gifts. Simple as that. I believe that with every fiber in my being. And now what that's going to look like is going to vary from person to person. And how many people and the way that you're here to share those gifts is going to look differently. But I am sharing this with you because I don't necessarily get it right every single time. None of us do. But I feel like I've really gotten clear on this for myself. Me coming from a background of loving and using and studying and teaching the skill of speaking, you'll often hear me say that I believe your story and your voice are the two most powerful gifts that you have, the two most powerful tools that you have. And anyone listening, you may believe that, you may or may not use that as a way to share your gifts, but I really love the idea of your mess is your message. And I feel like this is a perfect sort of full circle moment because we've talked about this concept of soul contracts and everything happening for a reason. And again, there's seasons and moments where these truths and these beliefs, they don't feel very good. Even I want to flip some of the birds sometimes, even though I really believe them to be true. So you have gifts that no one else has, and your purpose in this lifetime is to share those gifts. So as we are rounding this out, I really want to invite you to look at what are your gifts? What are you here to share with the world? And you don't have to have a fancy degree. You don't have to have 6 figures in coaching certifications or anything like that. Who you are right now in this moment is enough to show up and serve the people that you're here to serve, is enough to show up and serve in the way that you're here to serve. You simply being you and being courageous enough and willing enough to share that has the ability to change the entire world. Even if it's the trajectory of just one single person's life, that is more than enough. And so I really want you to consider in this moment, I'm a big fan of if we need to take something intangible and turning it into something we can actually look at, I like to rate things on a scale of 1 to 10. And so I really want you to just be with, okay, if I were to take on this belief, this thing that Dani's sharing with me about, I have unique gifts that no one else has, and my sole purpose in this lifetime is to share those. On a scale of 1 to 10, how in alignment am I with that concept, with that belief right now? 10 out of 10 is you are just sharing every little ounce of all of your magic and your brilliance with the world at this moment, at this point in time. And 1 would be I don't think I've ever considered this. Or maybe you are on board with this, but you're I'm absolutely terrified and I don't even know where I would start. And so I want to encourage you to just write down on a piece of paper, where do you land on that scale? And what would it look like if you were to do one thing today? If you were to do one thing this week to really tap into, uncover your gifts and or start to share them, if you already know what they are, what would that be? And I want to invite you, there's the most heartfelt, sincerest invitation. Please, for the love of everything, do that. Your life will change in the most incredible ways as you go about supporting others through the sharing of your gifts. And if you're in a season where you're I love all of this, but this feels big and I don't know where to start, I want to encourage you to reach out to me. So many of my programs and my offerings actually tie back to almost every single point that we talked about today, especially understanding who you are and how you can uniquely show up in the world in a way that's going to make a really powerful difference. So I'm so grateful that you were here today. And as always, I love hearing from you. I want to know, what propaganda are you falling for? What are you not falling for? And maybe there was something or a few things that I said today and you're oh my gosh, Dani, me too. Or maybe there was something that you heard and you thought, I've never ever had that thought cross my mind, but that is absolutely something that I'm on board with. So I am so excited to hear from you across the social medias, and we'll see you again next week for the next episode.